The girl was clearly, in everyone's eyes, a dignified young lady of a noble family. But the first time she met her teacher, she opened her mouth and ordered him to clean her feet. Yet not only did the teacher refuse, he backhanded her with a slap. Because before Derek arrived, he had already obtained permission from Daila's father to deal with her as he pleased. And the only reason Derek could obtain that kind of authority was because he was a knight. It turned out Derek was a transmigrator, but after he crossed over he discovered he was nothing but a beggar. Even the mentor who taught him magic was just an old beggar who loved to brag. That old man wasn't some disguised reclusive powerhouse, he was simply an ordinary one-star mage. The old beggar needed others to flatter him, and Derek needed to learn magic, so the two hit it off. But Derek only took 1 year to reach the height the old man had struggled his whole life to barely touch. Yet the old man not only failed to encourage him, he instead began little by little to destroy his confidence. With your talent, at most you'll reach 2 stars. Magic depends on bloodline. No matter how you struggle, it's useless. It turned out that in this world, magic was a privilege of the nobility, and many nobles could even reach 3 stars before coming of age. That night was so long it felt endless, and Derek couldn't tell whether the old man was warning him or venting his resentment. But the next day, Derek saw the old man's corpse. It looked like he had been beaten, his whole body covered in injuries. At first Derek thought the old man had gotten into a conflict with someone and was beaten into that state. Only later did he learn. The old man had been beaten to death by guards, because he was caught stealing a 2-star spellbook from the warehouse. No one understood why an old beggar doomed to never reach 2 stars would risk his life to do such a thing. In the 4th year after the old beggar's death, Derek met his second magic mentor. Kadia was the mistress of the fallen Flameheart family, and also a 3-star mage who worked as a mercenary. At first, she merely gave a bit of casual guidance to Derek, who was so young yet had joined a mercenary company and could use 1-star magic. Kadia taught Derek a lot, besides magic, also how to survive in this world. And what truly changed Kadia's attitude was an accident. That day Derek revealed his talent, and Kadia didn't hesitate. She took him straight into an empty alley. You also know that nobles are extremely sensitive about privilege, and magic is one of the greatest privileges. Great power is treated as a blessing, but that only happens among nobles. Commoners occasionally reach 3 stars too, but only people who spend their entire lives on magic can do it. And what you just used was a 2-star distortion-type spell called Auditory Hallucination. From then on, Kadia took Derek all over the place, teaching him all kinds of magic. She also occasionally told him the rules of the noble social circle. Days like that lasted for a year, and then Kadia left. Count Elbiast's household invited her to be a private tutor. That count was a border count whom even the Grand Duke of the capital didn't dare offend lightly, so she couldn't refuse. Being a magic teacher for a noble of that level was a rare opportunity for anyone. So Kadia left behind a 2-star spellbook and disappeared from Derek's life. After teaching himself 2 more 2-star spells, Derek was only 16 that year, and he had no intention of stopping there. And it was also that day that Derek received a commission that would change his fate. The extravagantly wealthy Grand Duke Duplian posted a commission to subjugate magical beasts on the outskirts of his territory. But Derek immediately sensed something was off. How could a family like Duplian's commission mercenaries to deal with magical beasts? Thinking of the warnings from the old beggar and from Kadia, Derek refused on the spot. But the Duplian family offered too much. Just the deposit alone was a full gold coin. And the target was even more outrageous. It was only a group of ordinary goblins. Sure enough, just as Derek had thought, this commission was merely a cover. Their real goal was to find a magic teacher for the young lady of House Duplian. And the 3 people who appeared earlier were hardly simple either. The old man was called Darren, the chief steward of the Duplian estate. The woman was the head maid of the estate, named Catalina. And the last was Iceland Eleanor Duplian, the eldest daughter of the Duplian family. Although Derek accepted this high-paying commission, he still didn't let down his guard. Because nobles like this had no reason at all to hire a mercenary as a teacher. At the same time, Reg barged into the Grand Duke Duplian's study. "Father, Brother Valerian, look at this." "Reg, what are you doing? Haven't I taught you to maintain your composure at all times?" "The one who should maintain composure isn't me, it's Daila. She's already started laying hands on the servants in the estate." "Lower your voice, Father is talking with me." Just last month alone more than 10 servants couldn't take it anymore and quit, and she smashes furniture at the slightest provocation. How much longer are you going to indulge that rogue? Hearing Reg talk about his own sister like that, Valerian finally couldn't hold back. "Enough, get out first. I still need to talk with Father. Daila is a troublemaking disaster, there's no disputing that, and don't we still have Islin? I think we should more or less give up on Daila. Listen carefully, this isn't for you to judge. I've already had the steward inquire at the monastery. The conditions there are very good, and there are quite a few noble children as well. Rather than letting her drag down the family, we might as well submit to God's arrangement. If someone like that is left unattended, sooner or later she'll become a calamity for our Duplian house. But before Reg's words had even finished, Grand Duke Duplian grabbed him by the head and slammed it viciously into the tabletop. I've said it once, this kind of matter shouldn't be judged by you. When it's time to make a judgment, you must be decisive. On the other side, Aislinn had already brought Derek into the ducal estate. Have you heard of my sister Daila? I've only seen Miss Daila on the Duplian family genealogy chart. Is that so? Then it seems she isn't noteworthy in outsiders' eyes. And at that moment, the two ran into Valerian and Reg coming out of the Duke's room. Long time no see, Aislinn. Have you been doing well in Albiest? Thanks for your concern, brother. I've been doing very well there. That's good. You can see that Reg has suffered a bit of an injury, so let's catch up another time. From their expressions alone, it was obvious an argument had just happened in the ducal residence. And seeing the maid behind them covering her face and crying, Derek immediately had a rough guess of what had happened. After that, the two entered Grand Duke Duplian's study, and as usual Aislinn exchanged a few pleasantries with her father first. This is the magic teacher I brought back from Albiest. He's willing to teach Daila. But from the Grand Duke's expression, it was clear he didn't take this matter seriously. Father, you must be very busy, so I'll take my leave first. But before she left, the Grand Duke had Derek stay behind alone. You look very young. 16 this year? Yes, relying on the etiquette Kadia had taught him, Derek didn't lose his composure. About what level of magic can you use? I only know a bit of one-star magic. Stop lying. Excessive humility isn't a virtue. Only then did Derek understand. In front of Grand Duke Duplian, a 5-star mage, humility wouldn't work. If I've been discourteous, I apologize to you. It's fine, I know why you did it. But in my view, whether in age or attire, you don't look like a qualified magic teacher. Derek knew he couldn't hide it. I'm a mercenary. Since you're the teacher Aislinn chose, I won't say more. I permit you to come and go from the villa where Daila lives. I'll send a maid to show you the way. You may leave now. May I ask you a few questions? Ask. Only after receiving the Grand Duke's nod did Derek continue. You also know I'm a mercenary. Once I take a commission I must complete it. Miss Aislinn commissioned me to help Miss Daila learn magic and get her into the noble social circle. What you want to ask is just these self-evident things. So, in order to complete the commission better, I hope the Grand Duke can grant me a certain degree of authority. The moment he heard that, Grand Duke Duplian's expression finally shifted. On the other side, Daila once again hurled a plate viciously at the maid beside her. I'm terribly sorry, Miss Daila. What use is an apology from someone like you? Get out of my sight immediately. Next time I see you again, I'll smash it straight into your lousy face. At the same time, the head of the Mercenaries Guild was also puzzled. Why let a commoner become a noble's magic teacher? I've searched all over the continent for renowned magic tutors, but they all gave up. I really had no other way, so I made this decision. Although Mr. Derek comes from the mercenaries, he understands noble conduct and culture. His mentor was a fallen noble, so he probably learned all that from that person. Understood. Although Mr. Derek is a mercenary, he has an uncommon air about him, and he's very kind. I think perhaps he really can guide Daila well. Miss Aislinn, your judgment of people still isn't accurate enough. That guy Derek is a mage who grew up in the slums. He started working as a mercenary before he even knew better. People who come out of the slums, how could they possibly grow up relying on bearing and kindness? Led by Darren, Derek arrived at the villa where Daila lived. He knocked several times and no one responded, so Derek pushed open the door to Daila's room directly. Hello, I'm Derek. Sorry to disturb you. But Daila didn't respond. She only kept motioning for him to come closer. The moment Derek walked up, the corner of Daila's mouth lifted into a smug smile. The next second, she poured a whole large bucket of swill from the floor straight over Derek's face. What should we do? I thought a rat had come in. So this is the mercenary the steward mentioned? Looking closely, you really do look like a rat. This is something I prepared especially for you. Does it remind you of your hometown? The smell of sewers really suits you. But what a pity, my carefully prepared gift ended up spilled all over the floor. Listening to these insults, Derek only stared at Daila without saying a single word. Instead, it was that gaze that made Daila feel inexplicably uncomfortable. Daila didn't hesitate. She kicked Derek down onto the floor. Don't look at me like that. She kicked far too hard, so hard that even the shoe on that foot flew off. Don't overestimate yourself, you stinking rat. You think you can teach me? Haven't those commoners taught you basic sense? Because of the conversation just now, Grand Duke Duplian fell into deep thought. Because this Derek, who came from the mercenaries, had shocked him far too much. The fact that I can sit here means Miss Daila's problem isn't that simple. So I want to ask the Grand Duke who loves Miss Daila a question. When I teach Miss Daila, how much authority can you give me? The scene returned to Derek's side. He raised his hand and gave Daila a loud, ringing slap. Without a doubt, Daila had never imagined anyone would dare treat her like that. She stared at Derek in disbelief, her eyes trembling. The burning pain on her face told her she really had been hit. Only then did Derek speak, stand up. In fact, as early as 3 years ago, Derek had asked Katia a question. Teacher, if you meet a student who is overbearing and ungrateful, what would you do? I would first try my best to understand her, and be as tolerant as possible. Isn't that too idealistic? What if understanding and tolerance don't work? The essence of teaching is to lead a student toward a better direction. If understanding and tolerance can't create communication, then you must use another method. Then what is the other method? Plant fear in her mind. Back in the present, Daila still couldn't believe it. She had actually been hit by a mercenary. Treat others with care and respect. There are some words I don't want to say a second time. Stand up. But the instant Daila stood up, the first thing she did was slap Derek across the face. What are you supposed to be? You, a mercenary, what right do you? Before she could finish, Derek's slap arrived first. The same words, I won't say a second time either. Treat others with care and respect. The bolder Derek became, the more Daila was angered into laughing. Steward, what are you all doing? This lowly bastard actually dares to hit me. Hearing the shout, Darren immediately rushed in. Miss Daila, are you all right? How could you lay hands on the young lady? If the Grand Duke finds out. Before Darren could finish, Derek pulled a document out from his chest. Grand Duke Duplian has already decided. Everything that happens during Daila's education is entirely my responsibility. So no matter what method I use, it's with the Grand Duke's tacit approval. Seeing the Grand Duke's name on the document, Darren was speechless for a moment. And at that instant, Daila also understood. This teacher in front of her wouldn't be so easy to deal with. Not long after, word that Derek had laid hands on Daila reached Valerian. Brother, calm down first. So you're that mercenary? Valerian said as he pushed open the door to Derek's room. Facing the aggressive Valerian, Derek neither explained nor retreated. You actually dared to lay hands on Daila. Brother, calm down. At that moment, Derek spoke. I already have Grand Duke Duplian's permission. He's a guest Island brought back. What do you expect Island to do if you act like this? And father also allowed you to do it. You, come with me. Now. And Reg, stop getting in my way. Go do what you should be doing. I've heard about that too. Daila really does need a beating before she'll learn to behave. Don't worry, big brother won't hurt you. That girl is beyond saving long ago. Don't expect to be able to straighten her out. Not long after, Valerian brought Derek to Daila's room in the main residence. This was the room she used when she still lived in the main residence, and now it was left empty like this. Derek noticed that besides the cloth dolls girls liked, there were also many paintings. Daila really likes drawing. Every time she'd blush and pull me to look at her drawings, she was so cute you couldn't look away. But most of her drawings were unfinished. Often she would stop as soon as she'd drawn the part she liked most. I'm very sorry. Just now I was too agitated. I apologize to you again. I didn't take it to heart. No need to mind it. But I'm a little curious. Why did you bring me to this room? I want you to see. Daila shouldn't have been the kind of child who tramples others so casually. But I don't know since when, she suddenly became obsessed with bloodline. In the end she was driven out of the main residence and locked in the villa. I have no idea what, exactly, turned her into this. At the very least, Daila can't be sent to a monastery. As long as she learns a 1-star spell, I can find a way to persuade father. So I'm begging you, please save Daila. Looking at Valerian, who lowered his posture and was practically begging him, Derek only lifted his hand to signal that it wasn't necessary. She seems not to have completely given up on magic. This book has many notes she wrote in it. The books here should all be theory books of the Order School, right? Yes, what we nobles learn are all from the Order School. Staring at these paintings, a conjecture surfaced in Derek's mind. I'll do my best to try. As he spoke, Derek handed the book back to Valerian. That night, Daila was still fast asleep in her room. A bucket of cold water was poured straight down over her head. And the one standing there was Derek. Can you still sleep now? What are you talking about? Are you crazy? Get up. Come with me. Are you insane? In the middle of the night, where are you taking me? No matter how Daila struggled along the way, no one dared to stop Derek. Derek dragged Daila like this, pulling her out of the villa. After confirming there was no one around, Derek slammed Daila to the ground. You think this can change anything? Keep dreaming. What are you, worthy of teaching me? Since no one's here, want to hear an interesting truth? Actually, from the very beginning I never planned to teach you magic. I simply like tormenting nobles like you who sit so high above everyone else. Seeing the expression on Derek's face, Daila was genuinely frightened. Don't you think so? Why would commoners at the bottom like nobles? Teacher is just a nice sounding title. I never wanted to be any kind of magic teacher. I just needed an identity so I could torment nobles like you openly and with justification. You know, the screams of nobles really do sound wonderful. You think you can do something like this and still get away safe? Of course I can. Anyway, you're about to be thrown into a monastery. Who do you think would believe you? Even if something really happens, the worst is I die. Trading a commoner's life for a noble's life is a bargain no matter how you count it. And if I just run away, maybe nothing will happen at all. After all, I'd be helping the Duplian family clean up a menace. In that instant, Daila realized, if Derek caught her, she might really die here. And even if she ran back to the villa, Derek would likely drag her out again. So Daila decided to shake him off in the woods she knew well. As long as she could escape through the woods back to the Grand Duke's estate, then the one who would die would definitely be Derek. But just then, Daila sensed a glow flare up behind her. Only then did she see clearly, Derek had actually used the 2-star spell Fireball. That meant this 16-year-old mercenary was at least a 2-star mage. The fireball exploded in front of Daila, and she collapsed to the ground in fright on the spot. At that moment, Daila felt clearly for the first time, death was very close. Sorry, just now I actually missed. After Daila scrambled back up, she immediately sprinted madly toward the depths of the forest. But as she ran, she kept looking back to track Derek's movements, slipped, and crashed to the ground hard. By the time she got up again, Derek's magical attacks were already catching up, and those attacks were getting closer and closer, as if forcing her into a dead end. You're pretty quick, nothing like someone who's been shut in a villa from morning to night. Taking advantage of the gap while Derek spoke, Daila seized the chance to keep fleeing. She knew very well that running like this wasn't a solution. If it continued, sooner or later she would be caught. When Daila looked back, she found that Derek's attention seemed to be completely on his magic. By the time Derek looked up again, Daila's figure had already disappeared into the woods. But this forest was exactly the same as the one Derek had seen in the paintings. He guessed Daila had played here since she was little. And the things in her paintings were actually the magic power she had seen. After Derek used magic to sense the surroundings, he became even more certain. His earlier conjecture hadn't been wrong. But just then, Daila rushed out of the grass holding a rock. Unfortunately, Derek casually swung his sword and cut off her last hope. Your courage is worth praising. Even knowing it's hard to shake off pursuit, you still dared to strike first. Being able to make that judgment isn't easy. After being tormented in both mind and body, Daila no longer had the strength to run. Looks like you can't run anymore. Now, is there anything you still want to say? Derek pressed closer step by step. You think I'll apologize to you? Just kill me. I won't bow my head like those lowly commoners. Why are you so obsessed with bloodline? Daila's body jerked violently. What else do I have left besides that? Other than this so-called noble bloodline, do I have anything else? Magic, magic, everyone is forcing me to talk about magic. Do you think I haven't tried? But I can't do it. No matter how desperately I try, it doesn't work. Whether it's magic or drawing, I can't beat other people. What do I have left besides bloodline? If even that is gone, what am I supposed to be? I understand. Then go on your way in peace. After Derek said that, he raised his sword. This time Daila didn't dodge, she stared straight into Derek's eyes. But the next second, Derek's sword was forcibly blocked by an ice wall. Daila couldn't believe her eyes. The one who released the ice wall was no one else. It was she herself, who had never been able to learn magic. Daila couldn't understand it. She had actually used magic under these circumstances. You've worked hard, miss. I hope you can forgive my rudeness. This still doesn't count as real magic. It can only be said that your magic power has been triggered, but you've already done very well. Emotions that had been pent up for many years finally burst their banks in this moment. After verification, you should belong to the Wild School. What is the Wild School? I've heard most nobles study the Order School, but the essence of all schools is the same, only the paths of understanding and learning are different. Miss Daila is of the Wild School, so when you learn magic through Order School theory, you run into obstacles everywhere. But how do you know that I belong to the Wild School? I saw your paintings. You sensed magic in nature, and then painted it onto the canvas. Many people with Wild School potential can feel magic from nature when they're young. Alright, you can go back now. At this level, you've done very well already. But awakening is only the beginning. The road is still long. Starting tomorrow, I'll teach you how to trigger magic power. Just then, Daila called out to Derek. Anyway, thank you. That dusk painting, was it your proudest work? Which one? It was finished very well. That one really is my proudest work. You're the first person to realize it was a finished piece. Early the next morning, Daila began trying to trigger her magic. But no matter how she tried, there was still no progress at all. On her way to find Derek, she accidentally startled a passing maid. Of all things, the maid's hand trembled, and the water spilled straight onto Daila's skirt. In that instant the maid was almost scared faint. I'm terribly sorry, Miss Daila. After all, given Daila's past behavior, something like this would almost certainly mean a round of torment. I'm sorry, I've committed a capital offense. Please, I beg you, let me off this once. But what the maid found even harder to believe was that Daila didn't explode at all, only tossing out indifferently, be more careful. The maid stood there stunned. Daila had actually said it so lightly, then turned around and left. Are you alright? She didn't hit you, did she? I'm fine. It seems something really did happen when she went out last night. On the other side, Derek, who had been busy all night, was still asleep. But the next second, Dalila's knocking and her voice crashed in together. "What do you want, coming so early? Miss, please observe proper etiquette. If you act like this, it puts people in a difficult position. Teach me how to control the magic I've triggered. I tried it myself just now, but I still can't." Hearing that, Darren froze on the spot. He couldn't believe that Derek had made Dalila trigger her magic in just one day. "Didn't you say you'd teach me today? Hurry up and tell me. Come back in the afternoon." After Derek said that, he shut the door directly. Darren was still happy for Dalila, but Dalila's expression had already clearly changed. "Who do you think you are? What right do you have to order me around? Open the door. Tell me right now." But Derek didn't respond. He turned around and went right back to sleep. "Have you heard? Miss Dalila didn't smash a single plate today. I accidentally spilled water on her skirt this morning and didn't get hit. And I heard Miss Dalila successfully awakened her magic. Is that true? Didn't the teacher only arrive yesterday?" Hearing that, Reg went stiff all over. "What did you just say?" Not long after, Valerian told the Grand Duke and Reg about it. "Dalila awakened her magic?" "Yes, father. I confirmed it with the steward and the servants many times." Grand Duke Duplian uncharacteristically stopped his pen. "That's wonderful. But it's only an awakening. Father, don't draw conclusions so early." "Reg, even if you won't praise your sister for awakening her magic, you still say something like that? Have you forgotten what she used to do? Canceling the plan to send her to the monastery just because of this little achievement is far too rash." While the two brothers argued over Dalila, the Grand Duke merely fell silent, picked up his pen, and continued reviewing documents. Soon it was afternoon. When Derek arrived at Dalila's room, she was sitting alone on the edge of the bed. "Are you throwing a tantrum?" "I'm not throwing a tantrum. I'm angry." "Even if you throw a tantrum, it won't help. I said I'm angry. Whether you're angry or throwing a tantrum doesn't change the order. Things have priorities." Dalila finally couldn't take it anymore. "I told you I'm not throwing a tantrum. I'm angry." But when she turned her head, she happened to run straight into Derek's pair of blood-red eyes. She immediately looked away. "Fine, just treat it as me throwing a tantrum. You awakened your magic and then started messing around. You'll burn yourself out soon. That's experience. Study needs a balance of work and rest. Since you've rested enough, then we begin." What a stodgy magic teacher. "You want me to teach you in a not stodgy way?" In that instant, Dalila recalled the process of how she awakened her magic. The method really was novel, but the process was downright deadly. Thinking of that, Dalila immediately sat up straight. "Better not. Today we'll learn how to trigger magic. Once you can trigger it steadily, you'll be able to learn one-star magic soon." The Wild School doesn't have a complete learning system, so it's more suitable for self-study. It also pursues freedom more than the Order School. "To be honest, miss, you're very suited to the Wild School." "What does that mean?" "Literally. Your personality is free enough, you fit the Wild School well. And with the Duplian bloodline, your talent is extraordinary." Hearing that, Dalila seemed to be ignited. "You mean, I'm very talented?" "Yes, putting up an ice wall at the very moment you awakened. That's talent." "Then I'm a genius?" "Having talent and being a genius aren't the same thing. Aren't they the same?" "No." "Fine, whatever you say." As the two practiced triggering magic, neither of them noticed Reg standing outside the window. From his expression, it was obvious he was extremely unhappy about Dalila awakening her magic. Over the next stretch of days, Dalila went to find Derek almost every day. "Derek, I can trigger my magic now, but I still can't control the direction." "Derek, look, cold air is starting to come off my hand, but I always feel something's off." "Derek, listen to me. I sense magic, but this feeling is really strange." "Derek, I've been looking for you all day. Why are you here? Didn't I tell you to stay near the villa? Do you think Father lent you the spellbook so you could slack off?" "Yes." The Grand Duke agreed back then that I could browse the spellbooks here as I pleased. "What exactly do you want?" "I've already successfully circulated my magic the way you told me last time. Hurry up and help me take a look." That night, Valerian stood in his own room with a grave expression. "I heard you were looking for me. You're here. Sit down and let's talk. How has my sister Dalila been lately?" "She's improved a lot, but it will still take time for her to learn one-star magic." "I see. Probably next week, Mother will be back from the social gathering. I have to warn you in advance, she's not easy to fool. The people in the estate are still fairly friendly to you right now, but most nobles don't like commoners holding important posts. You understand, Derek? I'll be careful. Is that why you called me here? I am the next head of House Duplian. The head's duty is to look after and accommodate every family member, so I must treat them sincerely. This job is hard. People's hearts run too deep. It would be nice if everyone shared the same values, but reality isn't like that. So what is it you actually want to say?" "Dalila, my cutest little sister, won't play with me anymore." Hearing that, Derek didn't know how to respond for a moment. "You know, Derek, I still remember clearly the way she used to run over to greet me with a smile when we were little. Is there anyone in this world more like an angel than her? So, Derek, do you have any way to make Daila happy? Why are you asking me that? Isn't Daila the one who listens to you the most? Just as Valerian said, Daila was searching all over the estate for Derek at that very moment. How about you help me look at this? I learned to make dolls from the maids. Well, doesn't it look exactly like adorable Daila? Will she feel her brother's love? Forgive my rudeness, Mr. Valerian. Are you trying to curse her with this? Derek, you really are completely useless. A week later, the Duchess returned. I've heard many things about you. They say you hired a very capable magic teacher. I'm pleased to meet you. I am Miriella de Belle Duplian. If you don't mind, I'd like to send some gifts to the territory you belong to. I don't belong to any family. The moment those words left his mouth, Miriella froze. I don't belong to any territory or family. I'm just a commoner. Miriella could hardly believe it. The capable magic teacher they kept talking about was actually a commoner. The moment she learned the news, Miriella stormed into the Grand Duke's study. You actually let a commoner be Daila's teacher? What on earth is going on? My hearing is very good. Can't you keep your voice down? The problem right now isn't that, it's Daila, our adorable youngest daughter. Mariella, you also know I don't like hiring commoners. But those teachers with noble blood have already given up. Even so, you can't have a mercenary who's been brawling in the streets teach her. Finding a magic teacher is difficult in the first place, and Derek was recommended by Aislinn. Even if Aislinn recommended him, there should be a minimum standard. Why not invite your younger brother? Last time he put it off by saying he was busy, but it's different now. Daila has already awakened her magic. You want a defense force that guards the outer regions to be a private tutor? Do you think managing and running a territory is simple? Then what about Elbius' social circles? Do you think the social world is simple? It's a battlefield too. In high society, a teacher is the most important calling card. Yet you hired a commoner with no reputation and no family. Are you trying to have Daila become a joke the moment she enters society? At this time Valerian also walked in. Mother, calm down first. You didn't come back just to argue with father, did you? Stand down, Valerian. This can't just be left at that. Whether that commoner mage is qualified to be Daila's teacher, that's the key point, isn't it? The moment she saw Reg, a trace of relief flashed in Mariella's eyes. A commoner becoming a noble's magic teacher is no small matter. If he truly has the qualifications, it isn't unacceptable. Father, I'm willing to probe Derek's ability. If I win against him in a magic spar, forget it. From a mage's perspective, he really is very strong. Hearing that, Reg fell silent. Then let me test Daila. Only then did Valerian realize, Reg seemed to be targeting his own sister. If Derek truly is an excellent teacher, then as his student Daila should also have results. I'm willing to have a magic spar with Daila to confirm whether he's qualified to be a teacher. The Grand Duke hesitated for a moment, but in the end still agreed to Reg's proposal. After the two left the study, Valerian immediately caught up to Reg, who was walking ahead. What exactly are you trying to do? Why do you insist on sparring with Daila? Brother, do you really believe Daila has changed? Have you forgotten what she used to do? But no matter what, she's still your only sister. Bloodkin we must accommodate. The bloodkin you talk about will ruin the family. Haven't the things she did before proven enough? If you let her enter high society, then it'll truly be over. Is that really what you think, Reg? The one who crossed the line first was Daila. She deserves to be locked in the villa forever. With one brother and one sister, Valerian didn't know how to handle it for a moment either. The moment Daila heard the news, she went to find Derek. So early in the morning and in such a rush, what happened this time? Daila didn't answer. She only flung a document in front of Derek. If I lose this spar, you'll be fired. I've already heard. Young Master Reg is a fully fledged one-star mage. This spar will be very difficult. Is that all you have to say? If I lose, you'll be fired. I'm a mercenary. Finish the commission and get the payment. That's enough. And up to now, the payment I've received is already more than enough. Daila froze. Are you serious? A week passed in the blink of an eye, and soon it was the day of the spar between Daila and Reg. Aside from Aislinn, who wasn't in the estate, almost the entire Duplian family was present. After seeing the Grand Duke, Derek bowed as usual. From the way Derek looked, it was obvious he wasn't nervous at all. The Grand Duke couldn't help but guess that he was confident. In the Grand Duke's view, for Derek to still maintain composure on an occasion like this, firing him too early might not be the best choice. But no one knew that in Reg's heart, this had never been an ordinary spar. He wanted to use this chance to completely destroy Daila. Reg swore to himself to make Daila pay for everything she had done in the past, and regret it to the very end. Daila, attending a spar for the first time, had an unusually resolute gaze. The time went back to that afternoon when she talked with Derek. So other than that, you don't care about anything at all? Miss, you should be able to feel it too. Your magic growth has already gotten onto the right track. Although you still can't use one-star magic right away, after some more time you will. After all, Duplian blood runs in your veins. Why are you suddenly saying all this? I said before, the wild school is originally the school most suitable for self-study. Hearing this, Daila was so anxious her eyes turned red. So what? Why are you saying all this? Exactly. Derek, I also know I'm not a good student, but I still want to keep learning magic with you. I don't want anyone else to teach me. Let's be clear first, I don't understand the etiquette and rules of noble magic spars, and I've never been through those. But I can tell you how to win in a fight. Do you want to win? In that instant, Daila recalled the things she'd once heard. How could the Duplian family produce someone like this? Her brother and sister are both so strong. Looks like Duplian is going to decline too. Thinking of those voices, Daila's gaze hardened bit by bit. I want to win. I have to win. Today, Daila wasn't standing near as Reg's younger sister. She was standing on this martial platform as Derek's student, as a mage. Reg looked at Daila as she stepped onto the stage, and a kind of indescribable dissonance rose in his heart. Did she really come with a determination to win? The moment their eyes met, Darren's voice sounded from the side. Please both sides prepare for the spar. This spar will use the advanced mage sparring rules of the Kalefrem Salon. Whichever side triggers General Pelham's protective formation first will be deemed to have lost. Once again, please both sides prepare. The spar begins. General Pelham's protective formation would automatically trigger before the wearer suffered a heavy blow, and would cause the opponent's magic to fail. I thought I'd see how nobles fight, and it turns out they use such expensive jewelry as practice props. Too much money and nowhere to spend it. That thing only lasts 10 minutes. Reg clearly plans to end it before then. Reg wouldn't accept a draw, so he took this spar exceptionally seriously. The instant it began, he gathered magic and started chanting. But while Reg was preparing his spell, Daila still stood in place, staring at him coldly. One of the keys to magic sparring is chanting speed. At long range, the one who completes their chant first often holds the advantage. And against an opponent like Daila, a single one-star spell would be enough. Sorry, but you have to go back to that villa. The moment the chant finished, the one-star spell Wind Blade tore through the air and shot straight at Daila. In Reg's view, the slow-moving Daila had no chance of dodging. He could already imagine it. Protective formation triggered, Daila publicly judged defeated, and sent back to the villa. But what Reg didn't see was that Daila, whom he regarded as a family scourge, never wavered in her eyes from beginning to end. The next second, Daila lowered her body and burst to the side, an agility that had almost never appeared in her before. The change Daila displayed was clearly far beyond Reg's expectations. Don't think you can run. Reg ground his teeth and drove his magic, forcibly twisting the wind blade's trajectory. The wind blade chased after Daila again. In Reg's understanding, a girl who had been locked in a villa for years couldn't possibly keep her stamina up for long. But if he could see Daila's expression clearly at this moment, he would overturn that judgment immediately. Worse still, although Reg could cast one-star spells proficiently, in essence he was still a novice in real combat. Forcibly changing trajectory would only make his magic consumption surge. Just as Reg thought Daila would definitely be hit, an ice wall rising from the ground blocked the wind blade head-on. Logically, this kind of basic ice wall formed only from raw magic shouldn't be able to block a one-star spell. But after Reg's forced trajectory change, the wind blade's power had already been greatly weakened. Even so, Reg still didn't believe it. How long could Daila last with such little tricks? He planted his feet and began chanting again. This time, he would fire 3 wind blades in a row, his specialty. Since Daila liked running around, he would seal off all her escape routes. And Reg didn't believe Daila could still block the coming volley with ice walls. Listen well, Miss Daila. A mercenary's way of fighting is different from a noble's. Mercenaries don't take pride in fighting fair. They only care about one thing, winning. This is completely different from noble spars. Even if you win, you might still get cursed at, but it really can take you to victory. Do you still want to learn it? Of course I want to learn. This time, I will definitely win. Following the method Derek taught her, Daila began to break down the situation in front of her. She immediately mobilized her magic and formed several ice pillars, then weaved and sprinted between the cover the pillars created. Reg's strength was far above Daila's, but she clung tightly to the one line Derek had taught her. There are strength gaps even among mercenaries, yet people still win, because what they're fighting isn't a spar, it's a battle. Everything was just as Derek expected. Reg was only a combat rookie. He kept forcing trajectory changes, and his magic was rapidly drained. The wind blade's speed and power dropped sharply because of it, and that was why Daila could narrowly scrape past them again and again. Derek had said, in battle, you have to shape the battlefield and use every advantage. In other words, to win, you can stop at nothing. Likewise, making your opponent underestimate you and relax is also a weakness you can exploit. When she confirmed she couldn't dodge, Daila raised an ice wall again and took the wind blade head-on. But she had only awakened recently, and this level of confrontation had already started to overdraw her. And right at this moment, Reg's voice rang out again, it's over. Hearing that, Daila snapped her head around. It turned out Reg's final wind blade had slipped around the ice wall's blind spot and cut in from behind. The instant it hit, the martial platform was completely swallowed by dust and smoke, and nothing outside could be seen clearly. But Derek wasn't the slightest bit flustered. He believed Daila wouldn't go down that easily. Yet Miriella in the stands lost control in an instant. "What are you still standing there for? Stop the spar immediately. Bring Daila back." At this time the Grand Duke spoke. "Go back and sit down properly. The spar isn't over yet." "What are you talking about? You saw it too." Daila was hit by magic. It didn't hit. General Pelham's protective formation didn't activate. In fact, besides the situation on the martial platform, the Grand Duke had also been watching one person the whole time. Derek, sitting to the side watching the fight. From start to finish, he didn't even blink once, as if everything were within his expectations. With no end in sight, Reg also walked into the dust and smoke. By rights Daila should have been struck by the wind blade, yet the protective formation didn't activate. Then where is she? Just then, through a gap beneath the martial platform, Reg saw a familiar figure. But before he could react, the wooden boards under his feet let out a creaking sound. The next instant, an ice pillar suddenly stabbed up from beneath the platform, and the ambush startled Reg into a jolt. Fortunately he reacted quickly enough. Only his cloak was pierced through by the ice pillar. Reg couldn't accept it. Daila had actually hidden under the martial platform and launched an attack at him. By Darren's earlier explanation, leaving the bounds of the martial platform would be judged an immediate loss. But from Darren's expression, it was clear, what Daila was doing right now didn't violate the rules. Yet in past noble spas, such a crude fighting style had never appeared. Reg was still in shock when the boards under his feet creaked again. Though disheveled, he still dodged the second ice pillar that suddenly stabbed up. But it was far from over. Almost at the same time, 3 more ice pillars rose violently at Reg's side. Without question, every ice pillar stabbing up from below was locking onto Reg's position. These attacks were unseen and hard to predict, and if he got hit even once, he would lose on the spot. On Daila, there was no trace left of a noble sparring grace. And at this very moment, Reg finally locked onto Daila hiding beneath the platform. Not until this second did he see Daila's eyes clearly. There was no emotional fluctuation in those pupils at all. These weren't eyes Daila should have had, yet Reg felt he'd seen them before. He remembered quickly. They were that mercenary's eyes, the eyes that showed no emotional ripples even when Valerian grabbed him by the collar. Only now did Reg realize, Daila's tactics, without a doubt, carried the shadow of that magic teacher. Now that the truth was clear, Reg no longer maintained noble decorum either. Without hesitation, he tore off the cloak from his back. Since Daila had already abandoned etiquette and fought only for victory, he too had to adopt the same stance. Because of Daila, Reg also, for the first time, voluntarily cast aside his habitual noble manner. What is this supposed to be? How can you crawl under the martial platform? It's all dust down there. Darling, what are you doing? Hurry and stop them. Daila didn't break the rules. Watch the spar through to the end first. When he was young, Grand Duke Duplian often went to war, so there wasn't the slightest surprise on his face. He merely propped his chin and calmly looked down over the martial platform. Meanwhile, Daila, hiding beneath the martial platform, wasn't fighting at random. She was observing the changes above the platform. More precisely, she was watching the flow of magic power. As long as Reg started chanting, the flow of magic would expose his position. That way, Reg would either have to break off his chanting to dodge, or he could only switch his offensive spells into defensive magic. In this taut standoff, Reg quickly read Daila's intention. She was going to drain his magic dry. But right then, Reg found a way to break the deadlock. At the same time, Daila also noticed that the magic flow on the field suddenly vanished. She realized Reg might be setting something up. But no matter what Reg wanted to do, as long as Daila kept interrupting his chanting, it would be enough. Seeing Reg's change, even Darren couldn't help but freeze. Because at this moment, Reg had actually climbed up the flagpole bearing the Duplian family crest. From that height, Daila couldn't sense his chanting at all. But likewise, it was also hard for Reg to complete a chant steadily up there. So he had only one option left, smash the martial platform to pieces, leaving Daila nowhere to hide. Reg didn't hesitate. He raised his hand and fired a magic arrow straight at the base of the flagpole. When the strike landed, the flagpole holding the family crest toppled with a thunderous crash. Taking advantage of the momentum, Reg leapt and stepped onto the fallen flagpole. His objective was simple. While the flagpole shattered the platform, it would also send him down beneath it. Seeing this, even Miriella was stunned. She hadn't expected her pride and joy of a son to go that far. But at this moment, Reg couldn't care less about anyone's eyes. The instant he dropped beneath the platform, he began frantically searching around for Daila. Very quickly, through the dust and smoke, he locked onto a moving figure. Reg didn't hesitate. He immediately released another magic arrow. The moment the magic arrow closed in, Daila also sensed the fluctuations of magic around her. She immediately mobilized her magic, trying to form an ice pillar to counter. But she soon discovered there wasn't enough magic left. She could no longer cast. So she could only run, while forcibly recovering magic as she sprinted. Fortunately, the dust was too thick, and Reg's magic arrow veered off a little. But what surprised Reg was, Daiila was actually closing in on him on purpose. After all, as long as a single magic arrow hit, Reg would win this spar. Yet Reg hadn't expected Daiila to abandon magic entirely and kick straight at his chest. Once again, Reg saw killing intent in this girl's eyes. It was the ruthlessness he had seen countless times in childhood, doing whatever it took to achieve the goal. That kick hit his chest dead on, and Reg's breathing stopped on the spot. But something even harsher was still coming. Daiila actually grabbed a handful of dirt and flung it straight into his eyes. Though Reg saw through her intent immediately, he was still caught by the opening she created. Daiila seized the chance and, using the flagpole, climbed back up onto the platform above. But Daila's climb also made Reg fully certain. Her magic had already been exhausted. From the way she looked, Reg read her will. I want to win. Even if I have to fight dirty, I want to win. I want to use victory to prove myself. Daila's actions completely ignited Reg's fighting spirit, but not as her opponent, rather as her brother. By the time Reg climbed back onto the platform, Daiila was standing not far away, quietly watching him. She was covered in bloodstains, yet her gaze was fierce, like she wanted to tear someone apart. At this moment, Daiila remembered what Derek had taught her that night. Imagine you're painting. Magic is paint. You are the brush. Gather the scattered paint and draw a picture. That is magic. Under the night sky, that white-haired boy of mercenary origin had said it like that. The girl gazed at the world with eyes full of starlight, and for the first time felt an urge to paint all of it. The starry sky that night, the magic flowing in the air, and the white-haired boy beside her. She wanted to paint them all. The instant she closed her eyes, the scene from that night surfaced before her again. The girl squeezed out the last trace of magic in her body, imagining she was painting with her fingertips on a vast canvas. Without realizing it, the magic in the air began responding to the girl's call. Magic wound around her fingertips. Feeling the waves of chill in the air around her, Daila's first work was about to be born. The instant the girl opened her eyes, she released the first one-star spell of her life. An ice spear carrying bone-chilling cold condensed beside her. One-star magic, ice spear. Darren was visibly startled. Darling, look, it's one-star magic. Daiila used one-star magic. A one-star ice spear? You finally did it, Daiila? The moment the ice spear appeared, no one around wanted to forcibly stop this spar anymore. And Reg also swore in his heart to offer his little sister the greatest respect. Reg didn't hesitate. In an instant he formed several magic arrows. Even if Daiila had used one-star magic, Reg still didn't believe the outcome would change. The moment the ice spear fully formed, Daiila immediately drove it forward, shooting straight at Reg. Almost at the same time, Reg also fired every magic arrow around him. The two one-star spells collided head-on in the center of the platform, bursting with a thunderous explosion, and dust and smoke swallowed the entire platform again. In that instant, Miriella had nothing left in her heart but worry for her youngest daughter. The dust and smoke gradually dispersed, and defensive magic lit up on the platform, the signal that the spar had ended. Whether it was Daiila or Reg, both had pushed themselves to the limit in this spar. This spar, which would decide whether Derek stayed or went, would also reveal its answer once the dust cleared. And the one who deployed the defensive magic was actually Daila's side. She gave everything she had and used every means, but in the end she still lost. On her very first attempt at a one-star spell, because she was drained and out of magic, her ice spear ultimately failed to hit Reg. Seeing this, Derek said nothing. He only lowered his head in silence. A moment later, the blow of defeat crushed Daiila, and her tears fell like snap threads. Throughout the entire spar, whether it was Daiila or Reg, their performance satisfied Grand Duke Duplian greatly. Darling, look at what this has become. Fighting with absolutely no decorum. Does this deserve to be called a magic spar? Grand Duke Duplian didn't answer. He only looked silently at Daiila in the center of the platform. I can't take it anymore. That so-called magic teacher actually taught Daiila this kind of thing. As expected, commoners should never have been allowed near our adorable youngest daughter. Raymond Oswald Duplian remembered that he had been galloping across battlefields since childhood. On the road to becoming Grand Duke, Raymond had seen far too many people. And those nobles almost all shared one common trait: their eyes shone. But not everyone could be like that. Those who had been shattered again and again by setbacks and failure since childhood would end up with hollow eyes. He remembered that girl. After countless setbacks, she locked herself in the villa and stared at the wall with empty eyes. Grand Duke Duplian couldn't find a real way to help his daughter, so he could only accommodate Daiila as much as possible. He hoped time would soothe the pain in her heart, and hoped that one day those eyes would shine again. He had always believed, and always waited, Daiila would find her own path. A lost child. this was all parents could do. Yet in this spar, one where everyone had predicted she would fail, she fought dirty just to win, and after failing she cried unwillingly like rain, yet in those eyes burned a fire of competitiveness and a longing to be recognized. Miss Daila, are you alright? You must receive treatment as soon as possible. The girl didn't answer. She only raised her hand and slapped away the maid's outstretched hand. She steadied herself with difficulty and, in utter disarray, walked step by step toward Reg. In her swollen red eyes there was still lingering unwillingness. Reg lowered his head to look at the bedraggled Daila, and for a moment he couldn't speak. What had been meant as a merely ceremonial noble spar had been fought into this state. You've worked hard, Daila. Yet the girl didn't respond. She only silently lowered her head in acknowledgement. She stepped forward and brushed past him, and after she passed, the maids crowded around again. I'll take you to the inner room. You need to receive treatment first. But Daila still didn't respond. She only stubbornly kept her head down and kept walking without stopping. She walked down from the martial platform and finally stopped in front of Derek. Derek said nothing. He only lifted his eyes to look at his disciple. Daila also knew that a noble shouldn't cry in front of a commoner. But in that moment, all her grievances and unwillingness surged up at once and drowned her outright. I lost. I'm sorry. She had 1,000 words in her heart, yet all that came out were those few. Of course Derek understood. Daila had already done very well to reach this point. It's alright. Losing is alright too. Failure runs through life. This is reality. You have to learn to put down the wins and losses in front of you before you can become stronger. Derek was usually taciturn, so every word he spoke weighed on Daila like iron. Perhaps the emotional dam she had been forcibly holding back finally broke. The girl choked, and scorching tears fell drop by drop. In the gaps as the maids hurried to take her to treat her wounds, she sobbed out loud again and again like that. And it was at this moment that Duchess Mariella walked down from the stands. The moment Mariella came down, she jogged all the way and rushed to Daila's side. Daila, my precious daughter, how did you make yourself like this? You must have suffered so much these days. It's all right now, it's all over. Go get treated first. Trust mother, the rest I'll handle. With tears in her eyes, Mariella watched as Daila was helped away by the maids. Then her gaze shifted and locked hard onto the white-haired mercenary not far away. She didn't hide her rage at all, striding straight toward Derek. The moment Derek turned his head, what he met was Mariella's face, anger pressed down tight. You despicable bastard, do you even know what you've done? You taught her one-star spell and you think you're impressive? Mariella didn't hesitate. She raised her hand and slapped Derek hard across the face. You self-righteous thing. You actually taught our pure and flawless precious daughter that vulgar commoner's bag of tricks. After she finished, she raised her hand again and slapped him once more. There are some worlds you commoners will never understand. Observe etiquette, maintain decorum, display strength through sparring, and protect values with authority. Darling, you saw it too, didn't you? This doesn't even count as a magic spar. He actually taught Daila to do this kind of thing. What happened next made everyone present go rigid. Mariella's face snapped to the side, only then did she realize she had taken a slap. You know, in a setting like this, who is the most frivolous person? What are you talking about? This guy is just a commoner. He is indeed a commoner not worth mentioning, but he is also our daughter's magic teacher all the same. Since when do parents treat their daughter's teacher like this? Everyone loves their child in different ways. I hope you can forgive her. Protected by Grand Duke Duplian like this, even the usually calm Derek blanked out for a brief moment. It's fine. Next, there are some things we need to discuss in private. Come with me to the reception hall. Seeing this, even Mariella stood there dumbfounded. She never would have imagined that Grand Duke Duplian would slap her in public for the sake of a commoner. After they arrived in the reception hall, Grand Duke Duplian didn't stint in his evaluation of Derek. You've guided Daila very well. As the master of the estate, I must give you the reward you deserve. That was the highest tier a commoner could touch. Do you want to become a 3-star mage? Hearing that, Derek froze. The Grand Duke directly threw out the thing Derek desired most. He was calmer than anyone, and he understood most clearly, to keep Derek in the ducal estate, he had to give him what he truly wanted. As a wandering mercenary, Derek of course understood that when opportunity came, he had to seize it. Yes, I want it. You made Daila master 1-star magic, very good. But in Elbiest social circles, that alone isn't enough. In House Duplian, there are many who can guide Miss Daila. Since she has mastered magic, she will naturally continue to grow afterward. You're right, but what my daughter needs isn't a magic teacher, it's a magic mentor. My eyes won't be wrong, though you are a commoner, you harbor an ambition that isn't even permitted in dreams. In the eyes of those arrogant nobles, that is a tremendous offense, but considering your results, I can pretend I didn't see it. Just as the Grand Duke said, Derek's goal had never been limited to 3 stars. He even wanted to touch realms above 4 stars, and the Grand Duke saw through it at a glance. This was what made him frightening. Since you have such aspirations, you also won't stay in a noble family like this for very long. In fact, I already knew you were prepared to leave Elbiest. I understand your ambition and drive, but I still hope you can teach Daila for a while longer. So, to keep Derek, the Grand Duke allowed him to browse House Duplian's 3-star spellbooks at will. Not long after, Derek arrived at the underground repository where the spellbooks were stored. Among rows and rows of spellbooks, Derek casually pulled out one volume. On the pages, thin as if they would crumble at a touch, dense unfamiliar phrases were engraved. Without question, this was a true 3-star spellbook. You had to know, even 2-star spellbooks were something only the very wealthy could afford. Yet on the shelves here, what sat were nothing but 3-star spellbooks, all in one uniform row. The library pavilion of a Grand Duke's house ranked in the top 3 in the Western continent really was on a different level. Just these books alone were enough reason for Derek to stay here. Only, if Perrin, who detested nobles, found out, it would probably be troublesome. A few more days passed, and Aila's injuries were basically healed. I'm a 1-star mage now. Just because you can use 1-star magic doesn't make you a 1-star mage. How can you say that? Your disciple has reached this level, shouldn't you be happy? Of course I'm genuinely happy for you. That said, you look like you've recovered well. Back when the spar ended, you were crying so hard. I wasn't crying. There was just too much dust and smoke, ash got into my eyes. And father should have told me earlier. I thought you were going to be kicked out. Then let's start class. You're growing fast. You should be able to learn other 1-star spells quickly too. Hearing that, Daila's eyes lit up and she leaned right in. What did you just say? What do you mean, quickly? I mean your growth rate. Being able to use 1-star magic not long after awakening isn't common. Didn't I say it? I'm someone who does what I say. So what are we learning next? Magic arrow or wind blade? Brother Reg used them and they looked super strong. But my ice spear is strong too. If I practice it more, maybe I'll be able to hit Brother Reg. What we're learning is magic manifestation. Aren't we learning 1-star magic? Aren't we learning 6-star magic? There are many reasons, but fundamentals are the most important. If I really have to explain it, it all comes down to magic power. Then start. Since you put it that way, we'll start. I thought we were going to learn 1-star magic. What a letdown. Daila complained, yet she secretly glanced at Derek with those big eyes, only to find Derek looking at her too. Why are you looking at me like that? Is there something on my face? No, you suddenly being disobedient feels a bit off. What do you take me for? I've respected your opinion from the start, haven't I? The first time we met, you poured filthy water over my head, and you did it twice. You still remember that? Well, it really was hard to forget. The weather's great today. Magic manifestation is definitely going to be interesting. I want to start practicing quickly. Seeing how embarrassed the girl looked, like she wanted to run away, Derek could only sigh helplessly. This lesson continued all the way into the evening, and Daila was so tired she lay down on the floor. Lessons will continue as usual, and I heard you'll be very busy from now on. As Derek walked over, Daila immediately sat up. So you heard too. Starting next week I'll have to take general courses as well. They said it's to prepare for entering high society. Isn't that a good thing? Since you've already mastered 1-star magic, you should start receiving real noble coursework. It's not good at all. Basic etiquette, foreign languages, geography, history, botany, piano. Why do I have to learn so much? How did Sister Aislinn endure it? That's why she's called the Flower of Duplian, and the central figure in Elbiest's social world. I just want to focus on learning magic. If you want to learn, then go learn. Since the Grand Duke hired me, I have plenty of time. Do you really have that much time? At this point, is there anyone who can still drive me away? How could there not be? Father approving you doesn't mean mother will let you off. What reason would the Duchess have to drive me away? If I keep learning from you, I'll drift farther and farther from noble taste. She's afraid I'll end up becoming like a mercenary. Just this spar alone was already way too far from the taste nobles pursue. She'll definitely find a reason to drive you away. That's nothing. Miss Daila, shutting the Duchess up is easier than you think, as long as you give her no reason. In the end, isn't the initiative in Miss Daila's hands? Early the next morning, Mariella paced back and forth in the ducal residence, full of worry. In her heart, Derek was nothing but a heinous, unforgivable mercenary. Every day she fantasized that Derek would pour the mercenary way of doing things into Daila little by little. She even pictured a day, Daila carrying a wild boar on her shoulder as she walked into high society. The moment she imagined Daila becoming another Derek, Miriella's head hurt until it swelled. She could not let her adorable Daila become like that, not even if her husband approved of Derek. While sorting through her thoughts, Miriella walked toward the mansion's front door, determined to resolve this no matter what. But the moment the door opened, the daughter she had been thinking of stood right in front of her. Mother. Miriella immediately opened her arms, ready to welcome the Daila who would throw herself into her embrace. Even if others said it wasn't proper, Miriella could never refuse her adorable daughter. But the next second she froze. Daila didn't rush in. Did you sleep well last night, mother? Daila didn't burrow into her arms like usual. Instead, she properly lifted her skirt, lowered her head, and curtsied. Miriella could hardly believe everything she was seeing. Due to recuperation, I have long resided in the annex and regrettably have not been able to come often to pay my respects. I had wished to speak with you at length, but unfortunately I have a piano lesson at dawn. Miriella subconsciously assumed a noble posture. I see. The cultivation lessons are scheduled tightly. Please pardon my discourtesy. As Daila spoke, she bowed slightly in apology. Daila, hasn't your etiquette course not started yet? Didn't they say it starts next week? Yes. Thank you for your concern, mother. I'm very much looking forward to it. In that moment, Miriella seemed to see Aislin's shadow on Daila. The change was so great that she even started stammering. Go on, then, don't be late. Just as Daila passed a maid, the wooden boards in the maid's arms suddenly fell to the ground. The boards fell. Be careful not to hurt yourself. Don't push yourself too hard. The maid froze as if she had just seen the most terrifying sight of her life. Yes, miss. Beyond Albius' northern wall lay the noble district where nobles gathered. Aislind has a smile on her face again lately. At the last gathering she looked so worried. It had me concerned for ages. Is it that obvious? I didn't want to worry you. But most of my troubles have been resolved, so I feel much more at ease. That's wonderful. I heard Miss Aislind often runs outside the noble district to help people, and I've been worried. The one speaking was Arlant, the second daughter of Count Belmild. Thank you for your concern, Miss Arlant. Actually, it's because my sister Daila needed a magic teacher, and I went to find one personally, so I've been rather busy lately. Hearing this, Arlant couldn't help but be surprised. For Aislind to personally go out and find a teacher, how formidable must that teacher be? You mean, Miss Daila? This time it was Denise, the second daughter of House Beltis, who spoke. That's right, not long ago I saw Daila at the estate. She's like a completely different person now compared to before. Her bearing is that of a true lady. I even heard she can cast one-star magic now. She was so poised it made me feel ashamed, and I thought I should work harder too. Denise grew even more curious. Almost no news about Daila had ever spread from House Duplian in the past, so why was Aislind suddenly bringing her up? Did you find an excellent magic teacher? Yes, his status isn't conspicuous, but his teaching ability is outstanding. Last time I personally went to the Beldran Mercenary Company to secure him, and it truly wasn't in vain. The moment the word mercenary was spoken, both Denise and Arland were shaken hard in their hearts. Arland suddenly remembered. Belmold's current head chef was someone Daila had driven out of House Duplian. It was said that just because the soup was too hot, he had been forced to leave. That devil-may-care tyrant. Now not only had she changed her temperament, she had even become a one-star mage. Arland instantly developed a strong interest in the magic teacher Aislind mentioned. Miss Aislind, could you tell me the magic teacher's name? If he is Miss Daila's teacher, he will definitely become famous in the future. I want to remember his name in advance. I see. That teacher is called Derek. At the same time, although Derek only knows a bit of noble etiquette, he still taught me many things. If I relied on self-study alone, it really would be too hard. So you taught yourself etiquette. How admirable. Part of it was self-study, but most of it Derek taught me. Then did you run into any difficulties when you were teaching yourself? Almost every step was difficult. Thanks to Derek, I was able to become like I am now. I see. In just those few short lines, all that was left in Mariella's mind was the name Derek. She couldn't accept it. Her precious daughter now couldn't go 3 sentences without that commoner. Miriella couldn't figure out what Derek had done to Daila. But she knew very clearly she could not continue to allow this. She could even imagine what would happen next. Miss Daila has been very gentle with the servants lately. She's become so approachable. Miss Daila has been in an especially good mood lately. Such a huge change in just a few weeks. It's incredible. I used to only see this kind of aura on Miss Aislind. You're becoming a real lady. Now Miss Daila carries herself like a noble too. And it's all thanks to Mr. Derek. Mariella swore to herself she would change all of this. In the blink of an eye, Derek was studying 3-star magic on his own. But despite his extraordinary talent, this time he ran into a substantial obstacle. Between him and becoming a 3-star mage, it was as if there were only an invisible door. It turned out these books were all a system summarized by the Order School. And as someone of the Wild School, Derek needed even more to learn through actual combat. Just then, Reg's voice came from behind him. Sorry, I'm not interrupting your training, am I? It's fine. What brings you here? It's about Daila. I also have something I want to say to you. But, is the book in your hand a 3-star spell book? Yes, the Grand Duke lent it to me. Hearing that it was lent by his father, Reg clearly froze for a moment. Even if I can't reach that realm for now, there's no harm in learning it in advance. Reg suddenly remembered how he had wanted to challenge Derek back then, only to be stopped by his father. A cold sweat instantly broke out on his back. You really are impressive. So you came this time because of something about the young lady? Well, how should I put it? Do you know what girls in their teenage years like? From Reg's expression, it was obvious he probably wanted to apologize to Daila. Like embroidery? Or making a doll that looks just like her? Do you think she'd like that? Derek immediately thought of the doll Valerian had made. Absolutely not. Derek's face darkened as he rejected it on the spot. I think so too, and it's not like I said I'd make it myself. Thinking about it carefully, that really is too stupid. We should head back about now, right? If you're done training. On the road back to the estate, Reg's emotions gradually settled. No matter what, I truly am grateful to you. The atmosphere at home has been very good lately, and Brother Valerian has been focusing on handling the territory's affairs. Father hasn't said anything, but you can tell he's satisfied too. Is that so? His Highness the Grand Duke is indeed hard to read. Everyone in the estate should feel that deeply. I should also accept the things I must accept, right? People change, especially children at that age. I don't know whether I never noticed, or whether I was deliberately avoiding it, but since even Daila has changed, I want to try changing myself too. I owe all of this to you, Derek. Truly, thank you. Hearing this, Derek only lowered his head in silence. Daila's magic seems a bit different. Did you notice the difference? It feels to me like she's painting. Only then did Derek realize, nobles were nobles after all. When it came to sensing magic, there was an inborn gulf between them and ordinary commoners. You're right. What Miss Daila is using is Wild School magic application. The Wild School? I've heard a bit about it. Maybe once she reaches a certain level, even if I'm no longer teaching, she'll be able to research on her own. And if it really comes to that, a teacher's interference would instead slow her down. I see, a certain level. There will always be a day when she sees the light. Without realizing it, 2 months had already passed since Daila began to change. Why are there flowers here? I thought it was blooming beautifully, so I wanted to pin it in your hair, so I brought it. This flower smells so good. It feels like in these 2 months, spring never left. Now she can even use one-star magic with ease, and she's become much closer to the servants too. I missed too much during that period. It's all thanks to Derek. I was wondering why you were so happy today. So it's magic class day. Do I look that happy? I have to pin the flower beautifully in your hair. Just give me one of the remaining flowers. I'm going to take it to Derek. But not long after, the flower she meant to give Derek fell heavily to the ground. The expectant girl was crushed by a sudden piece of news. Her eyes were already brimming with tears. What does that mean, Derek? Standing beside Derek was Valerian, who should have been handling the territory's affairs. Just as you heard, with the young lady in her current state, there's nothing more I can teach you. The seasons change in the first place. There is no eternal winter, nor will there be an everlasting spring. Time went back to a short while earlier. Your Highness the Grand Duke must have noticed as well. Miss Daila belongs to the Wild School, and carries a strong personal stamp. If I continue to intervene, I'll instead break her wings. Understood. Right now I also have no reason to keep you in the estate. You're right. After a brief silence, the Grand Duke finally stood up from his seat. Thanks to you, many things have changed, and my daughter can finally grow. I've kept my mind on territorial affairs all this time, yet I haven't fulfilled my responsibility as a father. Now I can finally be at ease. When do you plan to leave? I heard Miss Iselin will come to the estate soon, and then return to Elbiest. I plan to leave in her carriage at that time. I see. Then return the library key now. I'll put the spellbook I'm reading back where it belongs, then return the key through the steward. No need for that trouble. Return the key now. Derek immediately understood what the Grand Duke meant, and his gaze fell to the spellbook at his waist. If there's nothing else, then withdraw. The Grand Duke's meaning was clear. The 3-star spellbook at Derek's waist was a gift for him. Neither of them pointed it out, understanding each other without words. Derek saluted the Grand Duke and turned to leave the study. In the corridor outside the study, Daila had been standing there waiting the whole time. You suddenly showed up, and now you suddenly say you're leaving. Derek didn't know how long Daila had been waiting there. I know you might not listen, but I still have to say it. Do you really have to go? Can't you not go? Hearing Daila's urgent plea, Derek fell silent for a moment. I'll go back to being a mercenary like before, and I'll keep training in magic too. As long as Miss Daila keeps improving her strength, when you debut in high society, you'll definitely go to Elbiest as well. When that time comes, we'll meet again. Once my level is a bit higher, I'll be able to teach you new things. You're so annoying. Daila bit her lip. You always make it so I can't say a single word. That night, Daila had that nightmare again after a long time. Those piercing voices Derek had once suppressed, and those ill-intentioned smiles, came looking for her again. Even if she was already a 1-star mage, even if she had already learned how a noble ought to carry herself, she was still at a loss like a child. Just like before Derek appeared, Daila jolted awake from the nightmare once again. She sat up drenched in cold sweat. Moonlight slipped through the fluttering curtains and spilled into the dim room. So it was a dream? Daila panted, desperately trying to shake off the suffocating feeling from the dream. Miss, are you all right? Hearing the scream, the maid rushed in at once. I just heard a very loud sound. Did something happen? The instant she saw the maid, a thought suddenly surfaced in Daila's mind. Derek was leaving because he no longer had a reason to stay here. So what if she made a mess of everything like before? Daila remembered clearly. Derek had said the initiative was in her hands. "Miss, are you really alright? Are you feeling unwell anywhere?" The maid looked at Daila, even her voice was trembling. Right now Daila hesitated fiercely. If she made a huge scene right now, Derek might stay. In the end, Daila still spoke. "It's fine. I'm very well." Because she suddenly realized, if she destroyed everything again, it would mean personally negating everything Derek had done. Even if Derek was going to leave, she would not allow herself to turn his efforts into a joke. In the blink of an eye, the day of parting arrived. Get off at the Elbius entrance, or in the commercial district. The commercial district is more convenient. Thank you for taking care of me. Say your final goodbyes, we're about to depart. Hearing Aislinn, Derek couldn't help turning back to look. Unlike when he first came, this time almost all of the Duplian family's younger generation had come to see him off. "Are you really leaving now? I have to go back to where I came from. Life in the estate can't have been easy. You've worked hard these days. If you need anything in the future, contact me. So long as I can do it, I'll help. Thank you very much." After the two nodded to each other, Derek lowered his head and returned the Li as well. When he lifted his head, he looked toward the only person in the crowd who hadn't spoken. Daila held her chin slightly raised, staring stubbornly at Derek. "Why are you looking at me like that? You think I'll cry and beg you not to leave? Don't misunderstand. I'm not a child anymore. Being able to teach Miss Daila was my honor. Although you can't openly and proudly say I'm your teacher outside, at the very least, don't forget the magic I taught you. Sorry, but I'm going to say openly and proudly that you're my teacher. Even if you want to keep a low profile, you don't get to decide. After all, you're the teacher of the amazing Miss Daila." Daila thought Derek would reply to her, but Derek only looked at her quietly. The more he did that, the worse Daila felt. "Don't get yourself hurt being a mercenary. I'll be fine. But Miss Daila, please do take good care of yourself. I have nothing to worry about. I'm already an adult. I can take care of myself now." Hearing that, an old memory slammed back into Derek's mind. "I'm already an adult. I can take care of myself." On the day Kadia left, Derek had said the exact same words. But Kadia hadn't felt relieved. Instead, she had bent down, even more worried, and held him tightly in her arms. Back then Kadia had whispered a very short sentence into his ear, but Derek hadn't understood it at all at the time. Now as the years turned, he had a disciple of his own. Watching his disciple puff out her chest and say she had grown up, he finally understood. The girl was still too young, the road ahead too long, the trials too many, she would still go through more confusion and pain. In the waves of life, the girl who called herself grown up was in truth shockingly fragile. So Derek gave her back, word for word, what his own teacher had said back then. "Miss Daila, you don't need to become an adult so early." Hearing that, Daila's pupils widened sharply, then she bit her lip hard. She was forcing the emotion back down. But in the end she couldn't stop the tears. She only looked at him quietly, eyes reddened. Seeing there wasn't much time left, Daila finally stopped hiding it. "Derek, goodbye." The girl let the tears fall, yet with a smile, she waved farewell to her mentor. She would soon be going to Elbiust's social world, so Derek could also say goodbye to her calmly. "We'll meet again in Elbiust." Not long after, the carriage slowly stopped in Elbiust's commercial district. When Derek pushed open the tavern door, a blonde girl was beating up a chubby boy. "Isn't this Derek? You're finally back." Derek didn't speak, he only smiled faintly. He was back where he belonged. "It's not as good as Noble's tea, but it's the honey mead you like. The welcome drink is on me." "Thanks. Were you always this polite? How come after staying with nobles for a while, you've gotten even more awkward? How did you, this magic teacher, get nobles to behave so obediently? Tell me." "It was just work. Nothing to talk about. You're putting on airs like a noble. What happened, exactly? Telling me won't cost you a piece of flesh. Perrin, that's enough. I've practically been worked to death. Because this guy wasn't here, all the missions these days were on me alone. But thanks to that, Derek must have made a killing, right? Paying the bill must feel great, huh? Compared to the pay, I got something more important." Derek set the spellbook he had received from the Grand Duke down in front of them. "Is this a 2-star spellbook? Nobles actually gave you something this expensive. Not 2-star. 3-star. You didn't steal it, did you? If you get caught, your head's gone. So what if I stole it? That's a 3-star spellbook. Derek, where did you steal it? I'll go steal one too." "I didn't steal it. The Grand Duke gave it to me." "Give something like that to a commoner? Derek, you picked up a bit of noble air and learned to brag. You picked up a bit of noble air and learned to brag." Derek spent quite a bit of time before he finally got the two of them to believe. The spellbook really was a gift from the Grand Duke. "Any new commissions lately? You've only been back one day and you already want to take a job? The earlier you start this kind of extermination job, the better. After staying in a noble estate too long, my body's gotten sluggish. Don't worry. In this circle, majors are never enough. There's no way commissions will be lacking. Then arrange it for me as soon as possible, preferably the kind where we can set out tomorrow. Early the next morning, under the captain's arrangements, Derek and Perrin started a commission to clear out magical beasts. While Derek was gone, Perrin and Archer had run missions alone and suffered plenty. But now that Derek was back, she finally didn't need to worry like before about lacking firepower. But what surprised Perrin was that Derek, freshly back, was basically a workaholic. In just one day, they ran several commissions back to back. These days had been too tiring, and Perrin fell asleep dead early every night. And Derek, as usual, found an empty corner and continued practicing 3-star magic. Through these real fights, Derek's understanding of 3-star magic clearly deepened. It was no longer that illusory feeling he couldn't grasp before. Now, he had truly touched the threshold of 3 stars. But it was precisely this threshold right in front of him that made Derek fail again and again. And unlike 2-star magic, 3-star magic's power surged massively. Every time Derek's casting failed, the backlash hit him hard. He had already mastered most 2-star spells, but for a commoner, the threshold of 3 stars was still absurdly high. Even so, Derek still didn't stop. He understood clearly, no matter how good your talent is, without paying a price, you can't trade it for results. Time quietly slipped by like this, and by the time Derek could use 2-star magic proficiently, Albiest's first snow had fallen as well. It's way too cold. How can this damn weather be this cold today? Being young is great. You actually still went to the Kent Mountains in weather like this. Who knew it would turn out like this? I'll warm up here for a bit before I go. In weather like this, the only ones who'd still go out on missions on purpose are probably you two. As the captain spoke, he handed over 2 hot towels. The 2 of them took the towels and wiped the blood off their faces. Thanks. I feel like I finally survived. You've worked hard. Rest well tomorrow. There happens to be a commission that's perfect for Derek. Perfect for me? A commission that's both easy and pays well, just a little troublesome. It was a commission that had been kicked out by the Rohale Mercenary Company in the Western District, and the client was Count Belmield's household. They wanted a commoner who could accompany nobles in magic sparring. To put it bluntly, they wanted a punching bag. As long as Derek went over there and took a few spells, he could get a sizable reward. But at this moment Derek still didn't know that the person who posted the commission was Arland, an acquaintance of Iceland's. So who's my sparring partner today? To practice today's offensive magic, I specifically recruited a commoner as my opponent. You traveled all the way down from the north to Albiest just so I could use magic to bully commoners? Combat training should be like this. We've already promised the commoner sufficient compensation. You may cast magic to your heart's content. At the end of the day, this is nothing but beating up on a commoner. Yet you're still putting on that noble airs. But this time we recruited a commoner who can use 1-star magic, so it won't be like they have no ability to fight back. But I'm about to be a 2-star mage. The gap between 1 star and 2 isn't just a little. Miss Arland, if you truly respect your opponent, then please go all out. Isn't that precisely the etiquette a training field should have? Not long after, Arland, led by her teacher, met today's sparring opponent. He's way too young. You're my sparring opponent today? Hearing that, Derek stood up and bowed to her. Hello, my name is Derek. For some reason, Arland felt the name Derek sounded oddly familiar. Then let's get on the martial platform. Looking at how Derek was dressed, Arland felt he didn't look like a mage. But with the magic teacher urging her again and again, she could only go up onto the platform together with Derek. By the way, do you understand the basic etiquette of magic sparring? I've heard of it, but I only know the most basic part. Good. Resist as best you can. I'll end it quickly. Actually, Arland didn't want to use magic to bully a weak opponent, so she planned to use a shockwave to quickly knock Derek off the platform. May I ask, when you say resist as best you can, to what extent do you want me to go? Arland looked astonished. What kind of ridiculous question was this? To what extent should I resist for it to be truly helpful to Miss Arland's training? The moment Derek said this, even Arland's magic teacher could only shake his head helplessly. And Arland on the platform snorted out a laugh. Are you deliberately trying to amuse me? I said it. Resist with all your strength. Understood. I will obey your command. In the next instant, a glow of magic lit up in Derek's hand. In Arland's eyes, for someone so young to reach 1 star was indeed impressive. But as a commoner, his attitude was far too arrogant. So in this spar, she had to make Derek see clearly, between commoners and nobles, there was a line you simply could not cross. She chose the 1-star spell Shockwave, usually used in sparring scenarios where the gap between the two sides is too large and the outcome can be decided instantly. But Derek's pair of blood-red eyes suddenly narrowed, and Arland immediately sensed something was wrong. Shockwave has no visible form. You have to sense the magic instantly to judge its range. That not only demands strong magic perception, it also demands a body agile enough to dodge. In that moment, Arland blanked out briefly, and she immediately raised her evaluation of Derek by a notch in her mind. Miss Arland, the next attack is coming. A surge of anger rose in Arland's chest. So this kid's arrogance comes with some skill. But that doesn't mean the gulf between commoners and nobles will disappear. Arlen's second spell choice was Ice Arrow. Unlike Daila, who had only just begun learning magic, the ice arrows Arlen formed were purer in substance and sharper in edge. Under her control, dozens of ice arrows circled and danced in the air like living creatures. Her thinking was simple. Since you want to dodge, I'll use numbers to force you into having nowhere to dodge. But what shocked Arlen was that Derek merely flicked out a single magic arrow. The next second, this noble young lady's eyes widened on the spot, because the dozens of ice arrows she had fired were all snapped in two by that unremarkable magic arrow. By the time Arlen came back to herself, Derek's magic arrow had already pinned itself into the ground by her feet. She couldn't believe it. A commoner could control magic to such a degree of precision. Arlen's teacher could see it too. Derek's level, even among commoners, was top tier. His claim of being a veteran mercenary wasn't empty talk. In just 2 exchanges, Arlen fully understood. The Derek in front of her couldn't be dealt with casually. While chanting an academy-style incantation, Arlen widened the distance and again mobilized one-star magic. This time her expression turned fully serious as she chose the fire element. Derek also noticed she had switched tactics. She wasn't trying to precisely knock him down anymore. She meant to blow the entire martial platform to pieces. From a noble's point of view, Arlen's adaptability was extremely strong. The instant her chant ended, she slowly raised her right hand. Unlike the dozens of ice arrows earlier, the number of fire arrows condensed this time was likely in the hundreds. This was exactly why noble majors were stronger than commoners. Relying solely on magic reserves and firepower, they could suppress commoners of the same realm. Derek immediately judged that with coverage like this, he had no way to dodge. He didn't hesitate. He mobilized his magic on the spot, fully deployed his defenses, and took the entire volley head-on. Fortunately, Derek was already a 2-star mage now. Otherwise he might have been pierced through in that round alone. And after spending so much magic all at once, Arlen showed no sign of weakness at all. Only after the bombardment ended did Derek withdraw the barrier he had been maintaining. But at that very instant, he caught an extremely faint fluctuation of magic. So the fire arrows were only a feint. Arlen's real killing move was an ice spear she had secretly condensed while the smoke and flame blocked vision. At their distance, Derek had no time to dodge, and no time to raise another barrier. He had to admit it, Miss Arlen really was a genius. In a split second, Derek pushed the output of the 1-star spell light burst to its limit. The explosive glare instantly devoured Arlen's vision. In circumstances like this, she could only steady her body by instinct. Against an ordinary opponent, the outcome would already be obvious at this moment. Arlen warned herself again and again, stay calm, listen for sound, regain the rhythm. But even though she used magic perception to dodge Derek's attack, she still didn't hear any sound at all. Arlen immediately realized Derek had used a stun-type spell that could block sound. Fortunately, at this time, her vision had basically recovered as well. Relying on the faint magic flow in the air, Arlen dodged Derek's magic arrow again. She couldn't accept it. This boy had such terrifying combat experience. Arlen even began to suspect that the last exchange hadn't been something she dodged at all. Rather, Derek was holding back, forcing her past her limits in a cruel way. And just as she expected, the very next second after her vision recovered, Derek fired 2 magic arrows in succession. Under pressure like this, Arlen could only deploy magic defense immediately. Just as she was about to gather magic to counterattack, Derek suddenly closed the distance. This instead played right into Arlen's hands. What she was best at was rapid casting. She told herself, as long as she struck first the instant magic appeared at Derek's fingertips, she could end the spar. But what surprised Arlen was that Derek seemed to have no sign at all of beginning a cast. Until he had planted his feet, there wasn't even the slightest ripple of magic at his fingertips. In that moment, Arlen was completely stunned. Did I judge wrong? The next second, however, electric current exploded from beneath Derek's feet. It was clearly the 1-star spell current manifestation, but Derek's casting point wasn't his fingertips, it was his toes. Even so, Arlen still mobilized magic in the shortest possible time and defended against the strike. If not for that near-perverse reaction speed, she would have lost just now. Even Arlen's magic teacher couldn't help praising him inwardly. It looks like the wild school, yet you can't read his moves at all. From an academy-style perspective, it was even more impossible to understand. You really are an interesting kid. To be honest, at first I looked down on you quite a bit. Because back then I thought you were just someone who could brag. As she spoke, Arlen slowly walked up in front of Derek. Even though the spar clearly wasn't over, she suddenly bowed to Derek with solemn seriousness. Thank you for teaching me something so interesting. A trace of slyness flashed in the girl's eyes. Is this how you do it? After seeing it only once, she imitated Derek's way of releasing magic. Using an unorthodox method of magic manipulation to decide victory with Derek wasn't wise. With a shift of his magic flow, Derek directly guided Arlen's lightning and twisted its direction. Forcing an imitation of the wild school when you only understand the surface will only get you exploited in return. Arlen, who still hadn't realized this, changed expression instantly when she saw Derek's operation. Counterattacking by borrowing the opponent's magic, this was the first time she had ever seen such a style. Watching Derek advance step by step, Arlen already had a premonition. She wouldn't be able to take the next wave. But just then, a jarring bell suddenly rang out from outside the field. It turned out the spar's 10 minutes were up, so the result was handled as a draw. The moment the bell rang, Derek also held back the spell he was about to release. "You've worked hard." As if nothing had happened, Derek calmly saluted. But Arlen knew very well, today wasn't a draw at all, she had lost. From then on, Arlen's attitude toward Derek clearly changed. Although she still held herself high, at least she had the minimum degree of respect. "You're an outstanding mage. Miss Arlen is the one who is. I've never seen reflexes like yours. From the way you look, you understand the noble world well? I heard you were born a commoner, but with your strength, you must have made efforts that remade you. I have to survive as a mercenary, so whether I wanted to or not, I had to learn. No need to speak so modestly. I admire people who are willing to work hard. But that old magic mentor behind me doesn't like you very much. You'd better not go provoke him. Thanks to you, I learned a lot. Next time we spar, perhaps we can produce a better result. With your strength, there's no need to worry. Those half-baked types of course don't deserve to be my opponents. The person I truly want to defeat is..." In an instant, a familiar face surfaced in Arlen's mind. Iceland Eleanor Duplien, the opponent she could never beat no matter how many times they crossed hands. Thinking of her, Arlen's brow unconsciously knitted tight. Without realizing it, she said something cold again. "You can go back first. If you need help again in the future, you can send someone to find the captain of the Beldrin Mercenary Company." Every time she thought of Iceland, Arlen's tone would unconsciously turn colder. But she suddenly realized, Beldrin Mercenary Company's Derek. She seemed to have heard this name more than once. At this moment, Arlen suddenly remembered. At the last salon, Iceland had mentioned that mercenary's name. It was Derek. Thinking of that, Arlen's eyes flew wide open. Could it be that the magic mentor who taught Dayila one-star magic was you? At this moment Arlen no longer cared about noble decorum. She rushed up and grabbed Derek's hand directly. Derek was also a bit surprised. Why was she suddenly this agitated? "Is it really you? The mercenary who taught Dayila magic?" Derek was forced to stay at Arlen's residence until evening. "I'll just say it outright. As long as I can beat Miss Iceland, I'm willing to do anything." "The one you mean, is Miss Iceland of the Duplien family?" "Yes. She hasn't reached 2-star yet. I want to advance to 2-star faster than she does, even if I can't. At the very least I want to beat her once in our next spar." "Your competitive drive really is extraordinary." "Competitive drive? Seems like I disguised it pretty well. Maybe now it's just competitiveness, but in the past, in order to beat her, I even used some despicable methods." Hearing that, Derek fell silent. This wasn't a moment for him to interrupt. Jealousy is dirty and ugly. I've been jealous of Iceland too. But the result was ironic. No matter how I talked about her behind her back or nitpicked her faults, Iceland instead understood me and comforted me. After Arlen fell silent for a moment, Derek finally spoke. "Why are you telling me all this?" "I'm laying my weakness bare so you can see my sincerity. Of course, I also have a few questions to ask you. Please, go ahead. Since you've stayed with the Duplien family, you must know very clearly just how strong Iceland really is. And you've also seen my strength just now, so that's why I'm asking you. What exactly do I need to do to beat Iceland?" It was obvious Arlen had been living in Iceland's shadow all along. Hearing this question, Derek also fell silent. He thought for a long time before giving his answer. "Miss Iceland's strength really is astonishing, but Miss Arlen, you're excellent as well. So as long as you keep honing your strength." Halfway through, Derek suddenly stopped. People say the eyes are the entrance to the heart, and the girl in front of him clearly wasn't here to listen to pleasantries. There was only earnestness and sincerity in Arlen's eyes. Only then would she hand her true feelings to a vulgar mercenary, as she called him. At a time like this, saying empty courtesies would be an insult to her. Derek held her gaze for a moment, then finally spoke. "You can't win. Not ever." Usually there were only two possible reactions to words like that, so Derek kept his eyes fixed on her face. If she lashed out irrationally, Derek would leave at once and never come again. If she was crushed, Derek would stay first to soothe her. But the girl's response was, "Even so, I still want to win." There wasn't even an instant of flinching on Arlen's face. Only then did Derek understand. Perhaps she had heard this answer more than once already. "Didn't you even teach that notorious Dayila into becoming a 1-star mage? If it's you, you must have a way to let me beat Iceland, right? It's not that there's absolutely no way to try, but before that, there are 2 things I can't let go of." Hearing this, Arlen resumed that noble posture again. "Now we can finally talk properly. What 2 things?" First, do you know what method I used to teach Miss Diala back then? Derek wasn't academy style, nor did he have any so-called mentor's demeanor. Compared with a patient, guiding teacher, he was more like a mercenary carrying out a mission. He didn't go the gentle route. He only chose the most efficient means available at the moment to reach the goal. I don't know the details, but you don't need to worry. To win, I can do anything. Second point, as you know, I'm a mercenary. So what? Let them say what they want. Just say the famous Miss Arland is learning magic from a mercenary. But Derek, I'm serious. I'm determined to become someone renowned across the empire. If I can't even take first place in LB's social circle, that would be ridiculous. So don't use those trivial reasons to doubt my sincerity. I understand better than anyone what matters more than pride. As the girl spoke these bold ambitions, Derek was as calm as if he were listening to a commission briefing. I didn't mean that. I mean, you have to pay a reasonable fee. There are no mercenaries in this world who work for free. Arlen froze as if someone had pressed a pause button on her. When she realized she'd misunderstood, her cheeks instantly flushed red. So that's what you meant? Well, of course, any amount is fine. By the way, is the room a bit hot? Derek knew very well. Since she was sincerely seeking victory, he also had to respond with sincerity, by producing the harshest, most effective method.